Hello, people. I uh this is my second time. This is gonna be my second time doing this video because I deleted the first one for no good reason. I thought it was the old one, and I deleted it to clear space. Anyways, I hope I don't do poorly. Sometimes I do poorly when I try and do a video a second time. So fingers crossed. This week I read Conan the Barbarian, or, The Coming of Conan the Chimera. Conan of Chimera, or, King Conan. It's not one particular book per se. It's a collection of short stories. Some you could probably read in a single day. Now, typically I don't like short stories. I don't think they can do what I like books to do, to take me on these journeys. But that does not apply to this. This is amongst the best writing I've ever read. I'm not lying. To do what he does in the span of time that he does it is kind of incredible to me. It's kind of making me relook at short stories altogether. So, they're old stories, and back in the day, he wrote them for like science fiction magazine type things. That's when they used to do that kind of situation. So they weren't originally made as one big unit, but obviously in subsequent years they've become famous, and there are various collections you can get. That's why I said Conan the Barbarian, The Coming of Conan, Conan of Chimera, right? I've seen a bunch of different versions where they'll pin, let's say, like 7 of them here in this book, or individually, or in this big block unit. The one I got on the old Kindle here was a big block unit. It's every one of the stories. Now, they are, I think, in some kind of general order. The author himself, I read somewhere, says you don't have to read these in orders. In his mind, like the lore in his head is that he was sitting next to an adventurer, and that adventurer would recount stories over a certain amount of time, so that they're all the adventurer's life, but none of them have to be, no one retells their life chronologically. It's just, I remember this one time I fought this thing, and then you'll flesh it out for me. It's this kind of an energy. And if you read the stories, that's the energy that they have. We can start a story just straight, like 2 people wake up in the desert, you know what I mean? The next one can have named characters that start, and then they may end up dying or not mentioned later, or they come up again later. This kind of an energy, because he's an adventurer. He might go into Hyperborea and meet people that never leave that area, never go to Stygia, right? And so they wouldn't come up if he's in a different sort of realm or country. And in that sense, it's very cool. Also, within a story, we can start with X, Y, and Z character. And so we move chronologically, then we move away from them back to our Conan. And sometimes he can just pick up on that time frame and move forward. Sometimes he goes back, and we know that they did this, and at the time they were doing that, he's doing this, right? So the story grabs in really great ways that keep you engaged, and sort of cut out a lot of minutia in between, right? So I don't have to see the enemy gathering their army and doing all these things. My brain just fills it in this really great way. I would also suggest now what I'm going to do as well. I'm going to do it on a reread though, because clearly I just read it. And I read it all at once. You could read them all at once, just back to back. You might want to do that because they're so enjoyable. But you might also want to like make a point of just reading one little story, not knowing how long it's going to go. Just grab one and read it, and then don't read another one for like a week or a month. This kind of an energy. I think it'll digest really well in your mind's eye that way. They're very, very fun stories. And again, some are very short, perfect for a casual, and because it's such quality writing, for top tier readers like us. What our stories are, now that I've sort of hyped them up a bit, is what they call, or what a lot of people credit this author, Robert Howard, I want to say, Robert E. Howard. They credit him with, sort of giving birth to the sword and sandal sort of genre. This is an age way back in the ages of myth, so way back in the mists of time, when there are still dinosaurs, when there's probably Atlantis hanging around somewhere, the gods still interfere. Like you could have any kind of a thing just sort of happen. It's a completely untamed world that you move about in. And in this world, here's this one barbarian, right? That's our Conan. Just, what did they say? He's just like a gray wolf descended of 1,000 years of gray wolves. He's just got this eternal instinct inside of him that comes out in really fun ways. Super strong, straight to the point. But then he also has a kind of an honor, You would think from the look a barbarian would be very rapey, but he's very gentlemanly to women. He's not over imposing in that kind of a way. But, he'll clearly eyeball them. He'll clearly look them up and down if they're hot. What is he supposed to do? So this is a weird juxtaposition. Relentless in battle. I think the archetype for, if you've ever played an RPG game, if you're the tank, if you're the main tank, this is the archetype of what it is you want to be. Just muscled out of your mind, head first into any fight, not going, he won't be taken alive, right? If he has to kill like 9 guys. There's one story where he got caught in a trap. Of course, instead of running, he goes, well, if there's a trap, I'm going to go right at him. Pincer move. All his guys die around him. And so it's just him, and they find him. And it's just like, 8 hours into fighting and he's already fatigued, but he can always drum up more like primal energy to swing again. So the main enemy is like, there he is, take him, go kill him. And he sends like 6 knights. And he just kills them all, right? He just, boom. And so an evil wizard comes up, and they're like, hold on, I want to take him alive. And the guy's like, what do you mean take him alive? We got to shoot him with arrows. He's like, no, I want him alive. He goes, he just killed like 9 of my best knights. Good luck with that. He won't go down easy. And it's not always like the sickest swordplay, right? He can sometimes not be fancy with it. You get a lot of descriptions of, if you get a big freaking sword, right? It's made of metal, and you just yeet it on someone's forehead, even if they have a helmet, if you're strong enough, right? The helmet then just cracks their skull and brain matter comes out. And you're like, ew, This is the energy we have. He'll just hack through people sometimes. It's actually quite impressive. But it's this, he has this inner drive where even wounded, even sort of out of it, like a cornered animal, he can just summon more up and go again. What we also get is, okay, so our author thinks of this idea, right? Of this age of myth and legend. And then so he can move around in that idea in a lot of cool ways because he's, what do we say, first to market. If the idea is a room, he was the first in the room. So he can, grab and move what he wants around before any other authors get in on what's in the room. Tolkien opened the door, and now plenty of people make fantasy novels, right? But Tolkien had his choice pick. Our author does the same, only instead of getting bogged down with one, he really utilizes the short story, what do I want to say? The benefits of a short story. In that, sort of in a long narrative, you have to sort of introduce characters, deal with them, and deal with how to get away from them, right? So if he fell in love with a lady, how does he stop falling in love with a lady? We're like, well, why is that important? Because with a bunch of short stories, meaning the author can have multiple various interactions with multiple different women, and each interaction can show a different sort of phase of the character and a different sort of phase of the world that he's in. So we get multiple looks at, the sort of world we're in and the way it functions, and we don't have to bog ourselves down with the connective tissue, so to speak. It makes for a very rich story. Now, I mentioned women a couple of times, and they have a role in here. Pretty much they're all hot. They're all hot. A good 5 or 6 of them were naked the entire time, like running around naked. And again, it sounds like it's going to go one way, and you see half naked people, but it really doesn't go that way. I bet you dollars to donuts, your romance fan has a more salacious book within arm's reach, right? Romance books would be way more sexualized than this one is, even given that we're dealing with naked women. It's kind of wild. I think what our author's using the women for is, in a lot of ways, contrast, right? So, like a painting, right? So a naked lady then becomes representative of femininity, and that femininity contrasts with our Conan's masculinity, because he'll be essentially almost naked, except for like a loincloth a lot of the time as well. Okay. This has been the most disjointed video I've had to record. Where was I? Let's see if I can remember. Okay, I think I have sort of the women. I'm going to cover the women and the monsters. And between the two, you get a good sense of sort of the creativity of these stories. Now, on the surface, you would think, or you might assume, that the women characters in here would be one-dimensional. And they really aren't. Again, even in a short story, he's able to give depth to a variety of different characters. You have some, what is there? There's one queen who got attacked by her evil twin sister. You'll have, there's one that's a dancing girl. You just meet them like in the desert. And they end up in this cursed town. You'll have what is it? The pirate lady, Valeria. She's right up there with him. She's almost as equal. She'll go into fights. She's very independent. She'll stab fools just the same as he would. Obviously, she's not, a 6'2" dude. So she can't, crush people to death, but she'll duck and weave and stab and kill just as quickly as the next one. So you'll go from one extreme sort of to another. And it all starts to be very, very fun because what is it? In some stories you have, what is it? Damsel in distress, or a useless female character who just does nothing but drag the story down. But here, for some reason, you'll have the dancing girl in the desert. He's literally carrying her through the desert because she's not built to, survive. And his just primal ruggedness is just going to get through or die. Right? But he's literally carrying her under his arm. Nothing she can do. And it just feeds more barbarian Conan-ness into him, right? Instead of any kind of detraction, right? Cut to Valeria, the independent one, who what is it? She was on a ship, a guy was hitting on her, and rather than deal with that, she left. And then Conan left simply because she was hot. And, pirate ships come and go, but hot chicks, right? So he just follows her for that reason. And now we don't have a girl he has to carry up under his arm. They're more shoulder to shoulder. And now it's not feeding his strength in a physical sense. It's feeding his self-control, right? He's not a dirty, uncivilized. Well, he is uncivilized, but he's not a dirty, savage. He just clubs a lady and drags her off by the hair. He's not, not this desert girl. Okay, like, sticks in my head because of the way it sort of happens. She's in dancer silks. Those tear up in the desert anyway, right? So then she ends up in this town where everyone's half drugged out of their mind on some black lotus. And when they wake up, they try and kill you. And there's some evil entity just eating people, right? In the course of running around this city, she just ends up with no clothes, literally just naked. And that's sort of all that it's mentioned. Just now she doesn't have clothes. And, it affects the monster because hot chick. But in no other way is the story detracted or diverted, right? You just occasionally remember, I'm like, right, she doesn't have any clothes. And then he'll grab her like a silk curtain and then she makes a new dress out of it on their way out, right? This kind of energy. And it's weird. It's weird that you could have naked characters and it not be a distraction, but it kind of isn't. So just know going in, that's the kind of energy it is. It's not very salacious in that sense, even though you would think it should be. It really, really isn't. That leads us to our monsters. It's a great, great environment for them. We will have various types of mages. We might have just literal monsters that come out of catacombs out in the deep. It describes in 19, 20 different styles of, just plumbing the depths of evil. What is it? I got one. And this is great. The setup is so quick. What is it? We're going back. First there was blackness. First there was the blackness of an utter void, with the cold winds of cosmic space blowing through it. The winds blew and a vortex formed, a whirling pyramid of roaring blackness. From it grew shape and dimension. Then suddenly, like clouds dispersing, the darkness rolled away on either hand, and a huge city of dark green stone rose on the bank of a wide river. It's just, we go back to some like beginning creation. A people's come out of it, right? Cast in the mold of humanity, they were distinctly not men. They were winged and of heroic proportions, not a branch on the mysterious stalk of evolution that culminated in man, but the ripe blossom of an alien tree, separate and apart from that stalk. It's just God tier writing. And he'll say that these people are like man the way we are like gorillas, right? There's that a level of distinction between the two. Over the city and the land, the ages flowed as waves flow over a beach, and each wave brought alterations. I mean, just how old is this town, right? Your mind just starts flying off in different directions. They have earthquakes that come, and some black something oozes out into their river, and they start drinking it. Drinking wrought change, subtle, gradual, and grisly. What is it? They who had been winged gods became pinioned demons, with all that remained of their ancestors' vast knowledge distorted and perverted and twisted into ghastly paths. As they had risen higher than mankind might dream, so they sank lower than man's maddest nightmare. They died fast by cannibalism and horrible feuds fought out in the murk of the midnight jungle. And at last, among the lichen-grown ruins of their city, only a single shape lurked, a stunted, abhorrent perversion of nature. All that, of course more, because I'm not going to read every little bit. All that so that I can feel this evil that just came out of this thing that's completely unconnected to anything I might know about, right? This monster of nightmares lurking in the jungle that our Conan and company are walking in to look for treasure. All that just as a setup. Of course, he ends up fighting this thing. It kills all the dudes. It kills the pirate lady. Not Valeria, it's another pirate lady. Kills the pirate lady. Beelit, I think is her name. And he leaves with the jewel. He's able to kill it. Just that level. Somehow, it's like there's like a like treasure. It's just a pot of treasure, and he just can scoop it up for you and just feed you these great creative ideas. Play with them a little, and then move on to another story. You'll fight. You'll be on a boat, and some kind of something comes on and eats a dude, and then now he's fighting a large like snake. He will be stuck in a wizard's catacombs, where of course there's a large snake. There's like it's like a god. The snake is like a god, or the symbol of a evil god. Set. They always bring up this evil god. But he's in these catacombs, and off to the side he'll see weird like tentacle horrors that who knows what this necromancer's been cooking up down here for who knows how long, because he's a weird necromancer that can drink blood and live 800 years or something else like this. It's wild crap that ends up happening. He's in the catacombs, and he sees the guy stuck to some roots. So he hacks the roots away. Up comes this guy. This guy ends up being the nemesis wizard of the other wizard who stuck him in the weird crypt to begin with. He helps him get out. Big war is fought, and he's chasing the wizard, because the evil wizard's trying to leave. A large eagle thing comes down and takes out the wizard's horse. Conan jumps off, hacks his head off, and he don't hesitate, right? He don't hesitate to hack a head off. There's more, I would say, visceral violence than sort of R-rated in any sense sexuality. If that's what we're looking at. You would think it'd be the other way or both, but it isn't. It just hints at one, maybe a kiss, and then the other, entrails come out and skulls are bashed through armor and people are cut in half. This kind of energy. It's very fun. And anyway, he cuts this guy's head off, right? And then he's like, the head is still glaring up at him. And then the body's pawing around for the head. Then the eagle comes back, grabs the head in the talons, and flies off, laughing in the voice of the wizard he helped out of the catacombs. And then the evil wizard, like, chasing his body down in the horizon. And Conan's like, you know what? I'm not getting involved in some wizard feud. I'm out. But just, your mind just traces off, and there's these wizards having feuds. There's these other wars. There's Conan in this boat. There's Conan in this kingdom. And everything's just alive all at once. And he doesn't have to take the time and write a big fat book and describe every little nuance. It just feels alive in this really, really great way. The monsters are tremendous. There's one. I have to bring this one up because it was just so Conan. So Conan the Barbarian. He's, of course, trying to save a lady who got captured by another evil wizard. There's a lot of wizards. You don't hate it. Well, you don't hate them. What I mean is you don't hate when they show up. Things get wild and trippy when wizards show up. It's real trippy levels of magic. So the wizard takes the girl and he's trying to get her. And he sees like a huge dude, bigger than him, on a couch. And when he goes to kill him, his sword gets magnetized to a massive table. So he has like no weapon. And as soon as it's magnetized, the guy gets up and starts like waxing poetic about how his god needs sacrifices choked. And so he was picked from birth to be one of these people who chokes. And as like a baby, he was given like mice to choke, and he choked them out. And as a kid, he was given, other kids and larger animals to choke, and he choked hundreds of them. And as a teenager, he was given women and old men, and he choked them. And then when he was full grown, he's choked thousands of people. And now he's going to choke you, Conan, and you'll die. Right? He says all of this, starts walking on Conan. And I'm like, whoa, how's Conan going to get out? Because he's going to get out, but like how? Is he going to duck and weave? Is he going to take out the legs? Nah. Conan legit just stands there. The guys, boom, come right on his throat. And he just like tenses up, right? And then chokes the guy back. And now we're in like what he describes as just coils of muscle. It's just a full-on force v force. Who's stronger? The master choke sacrificer or Conan the Barbarian? And he describes like the skin is getting cut, right? But the muscle fiber is just too strong that it just won't give. And they just keep squeezing. And at one point, the guy freaks out like, I might not be able to kill him. And in that moment, he, panics. Conan chokes the life out of him. Twists his head the wrong way. And then just like looks at him and is like, you think you're tough. Tough's choking a Hyperborean bull before you're a grown man, which I did. Then after the struggle of that, like with no break, he just goes to his sword and just YOLOs again with more force to just rip it off the magnet. Then he runs and goes and saves the girl. I'm like, that's just Conan in a nutshell. There's a fight to be had. He just goes right in the fight like a tiger. You see in Tiger, they make the first move. I'm going to get a cut in. You'll take damage, and you just keep cutting. It's so freaking fun. It's so freaking fun. For this book, but in general, the most involved stories, I guess, are later in his life. We don't get too much of how old he is. You're sort of guesstimating. Maybe he doesn't know. But the later in his life ones are King Conan, when he ends up becoming a king of Aquilonia. Those are the most involved of the stories. And they're fantastic too. You can just imagine if, again, this author hadn't died. Think he committed suicide? Rip that guy? If he hadn't died, he could have given us like a full treatment. But he never did. But again, this what he gave us is worth it. The King Conan stories, they have an idea there where we have a guy, they're trying to bring back an evil wizard who was dead 3,000 years with this weird stone that glows. And the guy who's doing the magic says, like he goes, my family's been good. My lineage is good. I have done evil things. He self-admits this. I've done evil things. I've plumbed the depths and the horrors and done wickedness to get my magic up to this level. But I can only go so far because in my bones is nobility, which, is a theme that comes up a lot in real life, right? I forget the word. I want to say elocution, but that might be wrong. It's the word that means like you have a good family lineage, right? Marshall, the general, FDR, they liked their lineages when they were picking these cats. It matters to some people. I mean, some people historically, right? So that this idea of nobility genetically passed on in a weird way, our author takes this idea and flips it. Because then the character says, this wizard is from 1,000 years, hundreds of generations of evil wizards. So in his bones is this deep-rooted evil that just will supersede mine. And I'm like, I thought that was genius to take the idea of sort of a bonus you might get to nobility and reverse it and have it a bonus to even evil. So cool. They bring him back, and he helps him get the crown back. He beats Conan, doesn't kill Conan, but just beats him. Because wizards can never just go for the kill, right? They always got to pontificate. It never gets annoying because they're wizards and they can't help themselves. They got big ideas, and they always overlook just a primal, like, primitive barbarian. But I'm like, bro, he's looking just to stab you. You should just finish him. Nah, I'm smart. This guy's idea is to bring back it's like he goes, y'all brought back me. I'm going to bring back the entire evil kingdom that I had. And if I have to use, this civilization as a blood sacrifice to get that one back, Acheron, I think. Just a wicked city from the past. Which, again, it gets my mind just firing, thinking about, here are them in their age that's, in the midst of time for me. And even in their age, there's some legends about, heroes that defeated evil kingdoms. And if that kingdom comes back, all the world would be dark again. This kind of energy. He's thinking of bringing back an entire evil kingdom, with the blood of modern. It's very, very cool. And then it just sort of, the stories just sort of end. He gives, in this book that I have, he has some like appendice style where he wrote an actual solid history about the region and where the rivers are. You can tell that he has it in his mind where all this stuff is. It's very, very cool. But I didn't read that particular bit. I'm going to read it on the reread, which of course is going to happen. This one's up there. I recommend it highly to everyone who wants a good story. You can read it in pieces. It's very fun. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go edit this. I mean, it's one of those that I think it might be in the public domain. I think you can find it for free. But I would suggest buying an omnibus style for like $1 or $2 on Amazon. It really is fabulous. All right. Ad time. These are my books. I don't have a sword and sandal style book. I have a fantasy, time travel. What else? Conspiracy theory. These are my books. If you buy them, they'll help the channel. You can also get Kindle Unlimited. It's not sponsored, but it's like a Spotify for books, and read a bunch of books. So if you don't like mine, you'll get your money's worth. Or you can just watch the channel, or you can subscribe. You do you. We're good. We're happy you're here, and by we I mean me and everyone else who's watching. Okay, people. I will talk to you all next week.